Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today it's time for another 20 games I will be adding to the Spectrum. The first video went down very well. Thank you very much for your support and all your comments. I really do appreciate it. So I've been working on this ever since. It takes so long to do these videos, but I'm ready to go with another 20. It takes long as well because I chopped and changed my list a few times because there's a lot of great games for the ZX Spectrum. So you settle on a couple and then you start doing the list and you think of, like, maybe sometimes I'll check out the magazines and I'll get reminded of other games and I'm like, oh, that should really be on there. So then I go back and change it. I mean, I don't do this by any popularity. It's kind of like what my memory triggers. You know, if I remember a game or something, oh yeah, I had loads of fun playing that. There's a couple of games on here that probably wouldn't be at the top 100 probably games on the ZX Spectrum, but to me, they mean something. And I think that's what it's all about, isn't it? At the end of the day, you want the games that are important to you. So anyway, I'm also planning, probably on the next video, I might do a 20 based on comments. So if you guys want to send as many classic games in as you can remember, you have been doing that. So I've had a lot of comments already I can work with. But what I'm going to do is try and compile the most popular games from the comments and then do those 20. Obviously, if they're already games that I've put on or they're games that are already included, which some people have been including in their own, then I won't include those in the new video. But yeah, if you want to leave some in the comments, that'll be great, and then I'll go about compiling a new list for next time of games that obviously you guys have picked. I won't have as much knowledge maybe on some of them if I've never played them before, so it may be a shorter video, but we'll see. I just thought it'd be a bit of fun. Anyway, without further ado, I'm going to crack on with my next 20 games I'm going to add. Okay, the first game we have on the list is Batman the Movie, released in 1989 for £9.99, scored 93% in Crash and 92% in CMVG. I'm sure most of you have heard of this. It follows closely the plot of Tim Burton's Batman movie from 1989, and it's part platform, part driving, part flying and part puzzle game. There's a lot of elements to it, but there's only 5 levels, so you know, it's not lots and lots of depth necessarily. It's just each level they try and do a little bit different. I suppose the first and the last levels are fairly similar, and maybe the driving and flying games in theory are similar. Otherwise, you know, it's quite nice the way they've broken the game up like that. It's another ocean movie tie-in, but actually a good one. You'll find actually there's quite a lot of ocean games on this list. Funnily enough, I noticed it when I was putting the script together for it, that a lot of these games are ocean. I didn't even realise. It's another one of their rare good movie tie-in games. I gotta admit, I played more of this on the Amiga probably than I did on the ZX Spectrum, because I got my Amiga the same year this came out, so I was moving on more towards the Commodore Amiga side of things at that point in my life. But I have played this and it plays very well. The driving game's a little bit different to what it is on the Amiga, but other than that, they did a very good job with this one, and it's really good. I would heartily recommend it for the Spectrum without shadow of a doubt, and I know a lot of people have been recommending this in the comments, so you've got your wish. I don't know if this is my favourite Batman game. I think I still like the isometric one the most, but this is a brilliant game, and definitely if you're a fan of the movie, adding this game is a no-brainer. Okay, moving on, the next game is Night Law, released by Ultimate, or Ultimate Play the Game, however you want to say that. Released in 1984 for £9.95. It scored 9 out of 10 in CMVG and 94% in Crash. This was the third of 4 games in the Saberman series. Apparently there was a 5th game planned called Maya Mare, but it was cancelled when Ultimate were partially sold to US Gold, and some going on behind the scenes led to it being cancelled. I think US Gold eventually cancelled it themselves, which is a bit of a shame because these games were all very good, weren't they? Like every single one of them could be on any list, quite frankly, of the best ZX Spectrum games. I think it varies between different people which is their favourite. This was certainly one of mine. In this game you control Saberman as he roams the halls of Night Law Castle, searching for Melchior, who's a wizard who holds the cure for his deadly curse, and you've got to contend with the wizard's traps and tests and prove yourself worthy. And if you're familiar with the 3D isometric style games, you're going to be very familiar with this. It's great fun and definitely like a predecessor to games like Head Over Heels and Batman in terms of the look and the style and playability of the game. Very good fun, really good. It's my favourite of that series personally. I like Sabre Wolf as well. I like them all, to be fair. They're all very good games, but I think this Night Law was my favourite, and this could have quite easily made the first 20, to be honest with you. It was that close. The first 2 I put on the list here were the next 2 in line sort of thing. thing to go on the list last time. If I'd done 25 games, these two would have been included. In fact, the first 5 of this probably would have been included, so that gives you a little insight into how I feel about these games in particular. Okay, next, it's Chucky Egg, released in 1983 for £6.90. Only scored 80% in Crash and 8 out of 10 in Sinclair user. Chucky Egg's sort of like a Donkey Kong style game, I guess. Definitely the look of it, with ladders and platforms. Where you play as Henhouse Harry. It's a great name, that, isn't it? And you have to collect 12 eggs on each stage, for which you'll also score points, whilst avoiding killer man-sized chickens. They look suspiciously like ducks, but there is actually a duck in the game which looks slightly different, I guess, so we'll let them off. You can also collect the piles of bird seeds lying around for war points. I think the chickens will end up pecking at the seeds if you don't get them in time, and obviously eating them. Later on, you do have to contend with the duck. You'll see him in a cage for a lot of the levels, but certainly later on in the game he'll be released from that cage and he floats around and causes all kinds of havoc. Lots of people were saying that this was amongst their favourite games on the ZX Spectrum. I actually played probably more of this on the BBC when it came out. I always remember first time I ever played any computer ever, we had a BBC in school and they had Chucky Egg. So it was literally the first game I ever played on any home computer, except obviously it wasn't in my home, it was in school, but that's what we had at school, and it was fun. I liked it a lot, but I've never been massive on platform games as much as I am with like sports games and stuff like that. Let's put it that way. I still like to play them from time to time, and Chucky Egg is definitely one of the better ones. Okay, I will admit I was a late comer to this game. Next on the list though is Elite, released in 1985 for £14.95. They knew what they had, I guess, didn't they? They're charging that kind of money. Scored 9 out of 10 in CMVG and 92% in Crash. Basically, you combine a strategy trading game, a flight simulator, and a space shoot 'em up, and you get Elite. Originally published by Acorn Soft for BBC Micro and for Acorn Electron computers in 1984. Took a further year to be released on the Spectrum, and it was released by Firebird, developed by David Braben and Ian Bell, not the cricketer, I hasten to add. I don't think it's the cricketer anyway, but you'll never know. Elite was one of the first home computer games to use wireframe 3D graphics. You're placed on a space station with 100 credits, a spaceship called Cobra Mark III, and a rating of harmless, and your aim is to someday rise to the rating of Elite. A game you can literally sink months and months into quite easily. If you want a modern comparison, I'd say an early kind of No Man's Sky. I mean, not saying it's the same kind of game overall, but you know, space exploration, trading, stuff like that. It's got elements for sure. I would imagine most of the developers of No Man's Sky would say they were probably heavily influenced by Elite. And I was a late comer to this game. I never really played it that much. I think for me, I was an 11-year-old. I was really more into like playing simpler games. This one seemed a little bit too complicated for me back then, but now I've played it as an adult and it's a very good game. I can see why so many people love it, and I do apologise to a lot of people for like not getting into it sooner. I know that's my choice, but you know what I mean. It's like a lot of people have been raving about this game and I'm always like, I'd never played it, you know, it never really appealed to me, but I can certainly see the appeal now, and it's a great game. And I'm looking forward to diving even deeper into this when I add it to the Spectrum. Okay, number 5 is Last Ninja 2. Doesn't need any introduction, this one, does it? Released in 1988 for £12.99. Scored 90% in Crash, 9 out of 10 in CMVG. I never knew the names of the characters before I was researching this, but here we go. Arma Kuni, the aforementioned Last Ninja, resumes his battle with the evil shogun Kunitoki. I've got to really be careful with the pronunciations here. In present-day New York, you start in Central Park, bandstand of all places, and battle all types of foes, from muggers and vagrants to the odd dodgy copper. You must fight and puzzle solve your way across the streets of New York and even the sewers to track down your arch nemesis. It's got great graphics and it's just a great fun game to play, very good game to control, and it's kind of like an adventure game in a sense, an action adventure game. You know, you're battling your way through various stages like I said, and solving puzzles. It's brilliant. I don't really need to probably introduce Last Ninja. I would imagine most people know about this game, but it's an absolute cracker. I've done a video before on my channel which is a comparison video comparing all the versions of Last Ninja 2. Well, maybe not all of them, but certainly a few of them, including the Spectrum, Commodore 64. I think I did Amstrad as well, and Commodore Amiga. Probably didn't do, if there was an ST version, I don't think I did that. I can't remember which one came out on top, to be honest. You'll have to watch the video. I'll try and remember to leave a card at the top for that one, but yeah, Last Ninja 2 is a classic, and I'm sure most of if you've probably played it before. If you haven't, definitely need to check it out. Okay, at number 6 we have Renegade, released in 1987 for £7.95. Scored 89% in Crash and 9 out of 10 in Your Sinclair. I don't think this game needs any introduction, but I'll give it anyway. This is originally an arcade game by Taito. You play as a tough martial arts expert named Renegade, who whilst going to meet his girlfriend Lucy in Brooklyn is suddenly attacked by a gang of armed thugs and muggers. So Renegade must fight his way through the mean streets of Brooklyn to meet his lady love. Unlike Target Renegade, it's a single player game, so you can't team up with another person like on the ZX Spectrum keyboard, which is what me and my brother used to do with Target Renegade. But it's still good fun, still great fun. I mean, I used to play Target Renegade a lot as a single player as well, so it's not the only way I ever played it, but you don't have the option. I think that's what made Target Renegade so much more fun, was the fact that you could play with 2 people, which was awesome. But this game's still good. It's not as good as Target Renegade, like I said, in my opinion. That's just my opinion. I also did a comparison video for this, similar to what I did in Last Ninja, and I think the ZX Spectrum came out on top on that one. There was a couple of stinker versions in there as well. I think the NES version, from what I can remember, was absolutely bloody awful. The ZX Spectrum version, I believe, came out on top on that one. Quite possibly. Again, this was a few years ago I made these comparison videos. I actually really like them, so I want to do a few more on the, maybe when I get the Spectrum itself, I might start doing a few more. But it's a great game, Renegade, and Renegade's great. Target Renegade's even better. Renegade 3, absolute shocker. Again, all personal opinions, but I think a lot of people agree with that one. Renegade 3 is absolute rubbish. I don't know what the heck they were thinking on that one, but this and Target Renegade are 2 awesome games, and probably this could quite easily have been on the last 20 games I added. Very easily. It's such a classic. So if you haven't played it, once again, like I always say, if you haven't played this before, there's no reason not to add it, because it is bloody brilliant. Next up is Footballer of the Year. You knew I was going to have a football game on here somewhere. Released in 1986 for £9.99. Scored 8 out of 10 in CMVG. Only 68% in Crash. Ouch. Again, there are a couple of games on this list that are, you know, not going to be world beaters, but they are memories for me. And judging by the video I put out very recently of Footballer of the Year, a lot of you have got similar memories to me on this game, so you may want to add it yourself for your own reasons, obviously. If anyone hasn't played it before, this is a little synopsis of the game. It allows you to experience the life of a professional footballer, starting as a 17-year-old apprentice in Division 4, or you can pick your division actually where you start, of the English Football League. You have £5,000 in your pocket, and you have to buy like goal cards, incident cards. It's almost got like a board game-ish type feel to it. The goal cards will give you goal chances per match. Incident cards, you get the chance to win more money. Sometimes you get more goal cards, but sometimes you have bad things happen to you too. They're a bit like the chance cards in Monopoly. It's all good fun. It's a simple game. It's not going to tax anybody. The football isn't complicated. You only get like a certain amount of different goals that you can actually score, but it's oddly addictive. It really is. When I did my video recently in the last few weeks, I was only supposed to play it for 5 minutes. I ended up playing for about 45 minutes. It was like, and I saved it as well so I could play again. I only had a limited amount of time like in my day to do it, but I've actually gone back to it since and played a bit more. So it's an oddly addictive game. Not, you know, the best football game you're going to play on the system without a doubt, but it's fun, and your goal is obviously to get transferred to bigger clubs or get your team pushed up the league and up the divisions and ultimately be voted Footballer of the Year. You can also play for a national team as well if you're lucky enough. Don't know if I've ever played for the national team. I think I must have done, because I'm pretty sure I had won Footballer of the Year before in the past, so probably did play for the national team. But it's a fairly simple game, but it's definitely worthy of a place, I think, on here, because it will be like something that it's quite simple. It's the sort of game you can just go back to. If you've played New Star Soccer, I believe it's called, on mobiles, they did it way better, but it's a similar sort of concept to that, and obviously the predecessor to that, so why not give it a try. Number 8 of my 20 more games to add to the Spectrum is Attic Attack, released in 1983 for £5.50. Scored 92% in Crash and 9 out of 10 in CMVG. Another one of Ultimate's classics. You're trapped in a haunted castle trying to find your way out by hunting down the golden key. You must trek through a large number of rooms spread out over 5 floors of the castle, collecting and using objects scattered around whilst avoiding all manner of nasties. This is a fun and fast-paced little game, to be honest with you. I've seen people do YouTube videos of it where they've actually finished the game in about 8 minutes or something, which is crazy. I mean, I don't know if it's an actual speed run or not, but I certainly took a lot longer to play this game myself. It's part of the Rare Replay collection on Xbox, which obviously I think that's because Microsoft own all these games now, thanks to Rare. Rare used to be Ultimate, didn't they, I believe, as far as I know. So obviously all their games are on there. I've played Jetpack on the Xbox before, and yeah, I've played this as well. It's a fun game. It's not my favourite of their games, to be honest, but back in the day it scored very highly and was very well thought of, so I'm sure you might have played this before, and I think it's worth adding for sure. It's a fun little game, and like I said, it moves around at quite a quick pace, so be ready for that. But yeah, definitely worth adding, I think. Okay, next is Cobra, made by Ocean, another one of Ocean's movie tie-ins, except again, this one's a pretty good one. The crash score is a little bit too high, I think, on this one though, because it scored 90%, or 93%, sorry, in Crash, and 7.5 in CMVG. Actually, I think 7.5 is probably about right for this game. It was released in '86 for £7.95. I forgot to say that a little bit. Yeah, so it's yet another Ocean movie tie-in game, which, like, you know, you only have to mention, if you say the name of any movie like from the 80s that you know is on a ZX Spectrum, a Commodore 64, or an Amstrad, whatever, guarantee like 90% of them are going to be by Ocean. It's crazy. And like probably about 70% of them are going to be rubbish, to be fair, but there you go. But I enjoyed this one, and I think a lot of people do. The game follows the adventures of Marion Cobretti, who is also known as Cobra. Obviously, that's Sylvester Stallone's character in the movie, as he tries to protect model Ingrid from the Night Slasher and his evil gang of thugs. It's basically a side-scrolling, shooty action platformer. There you go, there's my technical description. It's good though. It's pretty much, I guess, the trademark of a lot of Ocean's movie tie-in games, isn't it? You know, the whole side-scrolling shooting thing, and we saw that in RoboCop. We saw it in things like Untouchables as well, stuff like that. So yeah, it was a tried and tested formula for them, and this is one of the better ones. Well, I liked it anyway. You don't have a gun, you have to go around headbutting people, which is pretty funny. You know, I remember it was fun at the time, just going around and headbutting people. It was hilarious. But yeah, definitely worth a check out. I don't think this is Stallone's best movie, but I'm a big fan of Stallone's movies. It's just mindless action. Stallone, Arnie, you know, that sort of thing. I love all that. You know, I'm an 80s kid, so, you know, seeing things like Commando and stuff like that was always brilliant, and Predator. And with Stallone, I liked Cobra, even though it wasn't the best, and obviously I love Rambo. So yeah, I think that there's a place for this game for sure, and I would definitely recommend it if you've never played the game before, and if you've got any interest in the movie. It's loosely based, but you know, it's still good. Moving on to game 10, we have Chase HQ, released in 1989 for £9.95. This is a very high scorer, scored 95% in Crash, 97% in CMVG. That's crazy, isn't it? It's another Ocean game. I think the next few in a row are all by Ocean, but this time it's a conversion of a brilliant Taito coin-op, Chase HQ. The game begins with a radio call from your police dispatcher Nancy, giving you a description of a perp, and basically you're off chasing them down, and that's the thrill of this game. You've got to chase down the perps. Bit of an original concept, isn't it? That, you know, I mean, you've been a copper in games before and that, but back then, you know, this was a new concept, you know, for a driving game, to actually find a criminal and then chase them down before they reach the state line and bounce off to their freedom. It's fast-paced, action-packed, and heaps of fun. And basically what you need to do when you do find the bad guys is you just got to ram them off the road, basically bring them to a stop by any means. It's an astonishing achievement, really, for the little old speculoos, the gameplay they cram in, and it's very faithful to the coin-op if you've ever played it. It's a lot of fun, and I don't usually do a lot of driving games. They're not my favourite by any stretch of the imagination, but this one was a lot of fun. Yeah, I think a lot of people are going to be recommending this or adding this, and the reviews are amazing for this game as well as some of the scores that it got. So I recommend it, the magazines recommended it, people in the comments have also recommended it. So if you listen to this video and you've never played Chase HQ before, give it a go. Okay, moving on to the next one. It's Rainbow Islands, released in 1990 for £9.99. It scored 94% in Crash and 95% in CMVG. It's another Taito arcade coin-op classic, and I think most people know about Rainbow Islands, don't they? An excellent platform game. I've got to read some of this out here. I never knew the villain in this game was called Baron von Blubber. It's such a great name, isn't it? And it says Baron von Blubber kidnaps the inhabitants of the islands, and it's up to Bub and Bob to pull off a rescue mission. Travel to the top of each set of platforms using jumps and rainbows while avoiding Blubber's minions and collecting different goodies such as fruit, diamonds, etc. Fun-packed action platform game. It looks great and plays great. I've also done a comparison video on this one, and the ZX Spectrum came out very favourable. in the end as well. So it's another great coin-op conversion game, and definitely you should take a look at this if you haven't played it. I'm pretty sure most people have played one version of Rainbow Islands or another. I think, you know, most of us have fell in love with the joys of this game. So if you're into platforms, again, platformers are not my number one choice, I guess, of gaming genre, but I still enjoy a good one, and Rainbow Islands is definitely one of those. So anyway, if you know all about this game, you don't need me to tell you how good it is. If you've never played it before, I'd advise checking it out. If you're into platform games, of course, you know, maybe you're not, but this is a great one, definitely. If you've never played it before, it's a good one to get started on. It's time for another arcade conversion, and this time it's Hypersports, released in 1985 for £7.95, scored 92% in Crash and 8 out of 10 in CMVG. This game is the sequel to the popular arcade button basher Track and Field. It's another semi-button basher. There are some events where you have to do that. Maybe not as many as in Track and Field, because there's not any running events as such, but there are events where you have to run a little bit, you know, like and the triple jump and stuff like that. So you still have to bash those buttons a little bit. Swimming at the beginning is a prime example of that, but I would say there's not as much of it in Hypersports. I personally speaking, in the arcades, I loved Hypersports maybe more than Track and Field, and obviously it's the same on home computers, because I didn't play a lot of Track and Field on home computers, to be honest. I don't even know if there was an actual version outside of like the arcade version that you could get on MAME and stuff like that on emulators. But yeah, I played a lot of Hypersports, loved it very much. Again, it's a game I think I played more on the Commodore 64 rather than the ZX Spectrum at the time, because that's what we had it on, and I think once you get it on like one of those, you don't feel the need to get it on the other, unless you're buying it on the Spectrum and then you feel like, or maybe if you get it on the Commodore 64, the graphics will be upgraded and stuff. So yeah, I didn't play it much on there, but once I'd played it on the comparison video that I did for Track and Field, again, I've done a lot of these comparison videos, I really liked the ZX Spectrum version, so I've played a lot of it since. It follows the same sort of style as the Track and Field, Daley Thompson's Decathlon games, where you have to hit a qualifying score to move on to the next event. And that's the only frustration with these type of games, I guess, is sometimes you can get stuck on an event if you're not very good at it, so you wouldn't then be able to see the rest of the events. But you know, you just have to learn, like I suppose a proper athlete, really get better at it, and then you hit the qualifying and then you can move on. And it's quite easy, I suppose, to get into the other event. The qualifying times are not set too high. It's just a question of learning, again, the routines, when you have to press the buttons, the angles you have to, you know, maybe jump at, and the gymnastics in the triple jump, or the, you know, the timing of firing the arrows in the archery. Once you get those down, you can quite easily qualify and move on to the next event. And obviously it's great fun playing with a load of friends, and you can compete and compare your times and stuff. I don't think you can play two players at the same time. In fact, I'm pretty sure, I know you can't. Well, obviously the game does record your world records and stuff like that, so you can go at each other's scores the next time around and stuff, and see if you can get further than your mate did and qualify for other events and stuff. So great game, top-notch graphics and animations, and definitely if you're interested in sports, you can't go wrong with Hypersports. Okay, game 13 is Arcanoid, yet another Taito arcade conversion, released in 1987 for £7.95, scored 5 out of 5 in Sinclair user and 8 out of 10 in CMVG. If you've ever played it, it's akin to the game Breakout, but this has a plot which I never knew existed. Let me read it to you. The premise of the game is that your mothership, Arcanoid, was destroyed, leaving you in your shuttlecraft, Valse. Your mission is to destroy 32 levels of block walls in order to save the universe. If you succeed, you'll reach the Dimension Changer, which will enable you to reverse time and bring back Arcanoid. That's the plot of the game, which I never really knew existed. I mean, basically my idea of it was you move the little ship around, you deflect the balls against the blocks, you pick up power-ups, occasionally you destroy aliens. That's pretty much it, which is the plot of the game essentially, or what you've got to do in the game at least. But there's this convoluted little plot behind the scenes which I never knew anything about. Goes to show sometimes you learn every day. It's not something that you need to know to enjoy this game. What you do need to know is it's very fast, very furious action. If you've ever played the arcade game, it's very faithful to it, and it's quite a lot of fun. It's very addictive. You just have to basically deflect the balls back at the bricks and you know, try and get them all destroyed to get to the end of the level. That's basically it. Then you move on to the next level. Nothing complicated about that. Like I said, the plot on the other hand, wacky, absolutely wacky. I'm sure most people have played a version of Arcanoid or Breakout before, so you know what you're getting yourself in for here, but this is a very good version of it, and I would say if you haven't ever played it before, give it a go because it's really good fun. Okay, moving on, next up we have Commando, released in 1985, £7.95, scored 94% in Crash and 8.5 out of 10 in CMVG. In this game you play as Commando Super Joe as he runs, guns and grenades through hordes of enemy troops to rescue prisoners held in the enemy fortress. The game really makes you feel like a one-man army, a Rambo figure if you like, which is quite ironic really because Rambo came out also on the ZX Spectrum, and I guess the two games get very, I say fairly compared, you know, not unfairly at all. They are very similar looking games, very similar feeling kind of games. Personally speaking, I liked Commando better. I did enjoy Rambo though, I didn't have anything against it, but I just thought that Commando was the more polished game. I also used to play Commando on the Commodore 64, and I can tell you that the ZX Spectrum version compares very favourably to that too, so haven't done a comparison video on this one yet, so this might be on the list actually for something I'll do at some point. But yeah, Commando's a great game. Very good fun, very fast paced. Whatever you do, just keep moving and keep shooting. That's the basic premise of this game. Don't stand still for too long or you will get a grenade or a bazooka up your butt, and believe me, it'll be game over before you know it. So definitely a good game to add to the Spectrum. Okay, it's time for another isometric 3D game. This one is Nosferatu the Vampire, released in 1986 for £9.95, scored 91% in Crash and 9 out of 10 in Your Sinclair. Beautiful looking game, this one. In the same classic sort of isometric 3D style as we've already said, of Batman, head over heels, that sort of thing, Night Law. Really good game. I loved it personally. I actually have a memory of this game, buying it in Basildon Town Centre on Boxing Day 1986. Me and my brother, we were at my aunt and uncle's for Christmas and we bought this game. It was one of those instances where you buy a game when you're not at home, so you have to sort of like stare at it all day long and wait to get home to actually play the thing. I remember we were checking the football scores as well because it was Boxing Day. We were checking the football scores on the teletext. It's weird the little memories you have, but yeah, I definitely have that. It's played across 3 levels. First is set in Dracula's castle, where you have to find the deeds to the castle and escape to warn the town about their new inhabitant who's about to start munching on them. So yeah, best you give them a warning really in that situation, isn't it? I'm not going to spoil the rest of the levels, but you do get to play as multiple characters from the Dracula novel. If you're familiar with the story and familiar with the characters, you will play those people, and it's great. It's great fun. It's, you know, a little bit of puzzle solving and, you know, a little bit of running around, and it's good. I'm not going to go into any more detail than that really. I think it's a game best experience for yourself, but definitely if you're into this style of game, it's another one of those, and another good one of those. And as you can tell by the magazine reviews, it's not just me saying that. And let me know in the comments. I'd be interested to see how many of you have played this game. I absolutely thought it was brilliant, but it's a game that doesn't get mentioned like as much as, like, you know, your head over heels, your Batman, your Night Laws, that sort of thing. So I just wondered if there's many people out there that are aware of this game, but let me know in the comments if you've played it. Game number 16 on this list is Ping Pong, released in 1986 for £7.95, scored 90% in Crash and 81% in CMVG. This is the final arcade conversion on this list. Rules of Ping Pong are the first player to score 11 points wins. That's the standard rules, I guess. If the score is 10-all, the game continues until one of the players has gained a lead of 2 points. You can play one player versus the computer with 5 levels of difficulty, or you can play 2 players against each other. And obviously the 2 player against each other is where the game really shines. It's good fun to play against another person. Obviously someone's got to go top table, someone bottom, so it can be quite tricky in that respect, but it's good fun to play that way. I remember many hours playing this game. It's very fast paced, it's a nice variety of shots, and it looks really good. I think until table tennis came out on the Xbox 360, if you remember that game by Rockstar of all people, I don't think we'd had a better version of table tennis. In fact, I don't even know if we even had one. If you're going to call Pong, maybe that sort of thing, I guess, but I don't think we had a version of table tennis. So but it was very good, and it compares favourably even to the Rockstar game. Well, the Rockstar game is better, let's face it, but it was a very good game. I played a very good game of table tennis back then, and it's another great sports game, I think, to add to the spectrum. Well, it's been a while since we had a game by Ocean, but here's another one. V, released in 1986 for £7.95, scored 70% in Crash and 8 out of 10 in Your Sinclair. I was a massive fan of this TV show. I still like it, actually. I've watched it fairly recently, but in the 80s I was obsessed with this show. I think, you know, as a kid I loved Star Wars and stuff like that, so anything that was sort of sci-fi was amazing. I guess I was already a geek, you know. Who knew I was going to grow up to be an even bigger one when I got older? But I'll be the first to sort of admit it's maybe not the greatest game ever, but as it was based on my favourite TV show at the time, I absolutely loved it. I think nowadays it'll probably be a little bit easier than it was back then, because it was very lacking in instructions, which made it a pretty difficult game to play, to be honest with you, back then. But I'm hoping that with the multiple saves that you get on the Spectrum, the ability to rewind 40 seconds, and obviously, you know, the amount of guides that are probably up all over Google and stuff now, it might make this game a little bit easier to play, because it was very hard back then. Apparently, doing this research, I was reading something that there is no save game facility in this game. That won't be a problem on the Spectrum, obviously, but back then that would have been a big problem. I don't remember that personally, but maybe that's why it was so difficult. But there you go. The plot of the game is, in case you don't know about V, a race of reptilian aliens, the Visitors, threatens to take over the world. A resistance movement has been formed to try and prevent this, which is where you come in, playing as Michael Donovan, fearless leader of the resistance movement who aims to destroy the aliens single-handed. Having sneaked aboard the Visitors' mothership, he scuttles around planting bombs in key locations. However, Diana, leader of the alien horde, has spotted your presence and is doing her best to make sure you don't succeed. Devilish Diana has commanded her army of robots to search you out and put a stop to your plan. I'm not sure why it's robots in this game, to be honest, because obviously the Visitors were sort of like lizard-like aliens, so I don't know why you have to fight against robots. There weren't, as far as I can remember, any robots in the show, but maybe they had to change it for different reasons. I don't know. Maybe they just decided robots were more exciting. I really couldn't tell you on that one, but it's still like fun. If you are a fan of the show, I think it's a fun game personally, and hopefully, like I said, the difficulty issues will be a little bit easier on the Spectrum. Maybe I can finally finish this game after so many years of like giving it a go and then not getting very far. So if you've got memories of this game, I'm sure it's already on your list to add to. Okay, the next game's a fun game. It's Rockstar Ate My Hamster, released in 1989 for £9.99, scored 70% in Crash and 79% in Sinclair User. So, if you ever wanted to manage your own Rockstar supergroup, well, now you can. Choose your brand and arrange gigs, record an album, you can do rehearsals, and you sort of see whether the album will be a success and the group and everything else, or whether it will fail miserably, which, to be honest, it probably will. Most of the time I ended up, my rock stars either got killed in freak accidents, or they quit the band, or there's some weird reason why I never succeeded very well in this game. Had a couple of hit singles, but nothing to write home about. But that's the fun of Rockstar Ate My Hamster, to be honest. You literally have loads of real rock stars. You can tell who they are, of the rock stars of the time, but obviously they had to change the name. So you've got things like Stiff Pilchards instead of Cliff Richard. Dick Knackered is Mick Jagger. Scratch and Sniffer is Salt and Pepper. I mean, it's funny. There's so many. I mean, there's loads of stars to actually choose from as well, which is amazing. You can sign up as many as you want, so you can have either a band, or you can just concentrate on one artist or a couple or something. There's so much humour in this game as well. You get crazy newspaper stories, like if you're after publicity, which sometimes can result in, like I said, your rock stars dying or leaving the band or something. So it's kind of random, really. It's a big chance you take if you let those things happen. Sometimes they just happen randomly anyway. I must admit, I found, again, most of this I played on the Amiga rather than the ZX Spectrum, but I've also played the Speccy version a lot, and apart from graphically, the game doesn't really differ. You know, it's exactly the same. And obviously on the Amiga you get a better graphical experience, I would say. You know, I don't think that's an unfair thing to say, but still looks very good on the ZX Spectrum. There's not loads of depth, I guess, to the actual management itself, but enough to make it fun, and I think you can get hours of fun out of this. And if you're looking for something that's a bit of a change of pace, a bit of humour, that sort of thing, then I think this is a definite good one to add. We're almost at the end. Number 19 is Laser Squad, released in 1988 for £9.95. This was a very high score. I scored 97% in CMVG. Only 89 in Crash. I say only, that's still a good score, but I thought it would have scored higher. This game was designed by Julian Gollop, who's best known as the man who gave birth to the XCOM series, which unsurprisingly, this game is a turn-based turn-based tactical war game, and a bloody good one at that, to be fair. So obviously, you know, I'm saying it unsurprisingly because obviously of the legacy of XCOM and everything that came afterwards. Apparently XCOM UFO Defense, when it was conceived, was originally conceived as a sequel to Laser Squad. So there we go, I found that out during research for this. The game originally came with 5 mission scenarios, and there was an expansion pack released later containing 2 more. It's also important to note that you can play single player or 2 players on this one. If I go into detail on this one, I'm going to be here all day, so I'm not going to go into great detail because there's a lot to it. But suffice to say, if you've ever played like a turn-based tactical combat game before, you won't be disappointed because it plays up to all those very well. And if you haven't ever played one, give it a try because they're good fun. I don't know how many of you guys out there are XCOM fans. I am a massive XCOM fan. I've got everything. I bought the whole collection on Steam a while back. Yeah, don't regret it. To this day, I love it. I absolutely love playing them. Games like this passed me by because I was wanting something a little bit simpler to play. Anything that was too complex, I didn't play. And I know I'm an idiot. I know I'm stupid. I should have played more games like this, but I absolutely love them now. And it's nice to get into them later, I guess, because you know you discover new things, don't you? So I would definitely say add this. I know a lot of people have been clamoring for this in the comments. There you go. There's your Laser Squad. It's on here now. And finally, we have the Wild Bunch. This is my wild card game, probably. Released in 1984 for the sum of £2.50. Bargain. Scored 7 out of 10 in your Sinclair, only 5 out of 10 in Sinclair user, which is not good. I admit this was put on here more for me as a childhood memory, this game, but I still would love to know in the comments if you've ever played this one. I really would. There were a number of contenders for the last spot on here, but I wanted to pick something that reminded me of my early days on the ZX Spectrum, and this was definitely one. There are a couple of games I was thinking of for this spot that really did remind me. One of them, I don't know if you remember the game Give My Regards to Broad Street. It was based on like a Paul McCartney thing. I had that when I was a kid, but I just never really understood the game. I found it really complicated and I didn't really know what was going on. But I remember playing that in the very early days of the Spectrum. But I also remember this game, The Wild Bunch, and I know I was really hooked on it. So I thought this would be a good one to add. Now, to describe The Wild Bunch, I'd say it's a semi-graphic adventure. It's mostly text, but there are little bits of graphics in it too. Unsurprisingly set in the Wild West. You're framed for a murder that you didn't commit. Yes, that old cliche. And you set out to find the man responsible. Just happens to be a member of the famed Wild Bunch. You've got 5 towns to investigate, each with a few different locations within the town. You can play poker in the saloon as well and stuff like that. Once you find a member of the gang, you can try and arrest them, or you can challenge them to a duel in the street, like a shootout, which, yeah, that used to be fun and very nerve-wracking back in the day. I remember that. But this was a lot of fun when I was a kid, and I'm looking forward to getting back into it again, just to see. I mean, it may have aged horribly, I don't know. But again, like I said, let me know in the comments if you've ever played this one before. I would be very interested to know. So there we have it. There are the 20 more games I'm adding to the Spectrum. You can see the picture on the screen. Batman the Movie, Night Law, Chucky Egg, Elite, Last Ninja 2, Renegade, Footballer of the Year, Attic Attack, Cobra, Chase HQ, Rainbow Islands, Hypersports, Arcanoid, Commando, Nosferatu the Vampire, Ping Pong, V, Rockstar Ate My Hamster, Laser Squad, and The Wild Bunch. You may or may not disagree with some of those. Do let me know in the comments, especially on the more obscure ones. I'll be interested to see if many people remember The Wild Bunch, for example. Whether you've ever played that, and yeah, let me know what you think. And also, don't forget to include in the comments your selections for games that you would like added to the Spectrum. I'm going to compile that little compilation for the next one, so the next 20 games list that we will have will be from the comments. So get your comments in with all your games. And thank you for the people that have already been doing that, and that will obviously count towards this as well, so I don't think you've got to reiterate all of those. I have taken note, don't worry, and it's all on a list, and I'll be tallying the votes. So basically what we'll do is like the more comments I get for certain games, I'll include those. It may not be an accurate count, so don't go through my comments and say, well, this one got 20 votes, that's not on there, you know. I'll do it from like eyesight, you know. So if I see like, you know, a certain game and I think, oh, I've seen that quite a few times, that will go on the list. This isn't a scientific thing here. This is just me, my warped brain. Anyway, guys, thank you so much again for watching. Thank you so much again for your support. I really do appreciate it. Don't forget, in the comments, I have included links for all the mini consoles. I thought that would be a handy thing to do, so I trawled Amazon, found all the links for all the consoles, and I put them on a little handy post, so it's all in one. So you know, if you ever feel like you want to order any of these mini consoles, and they're not all from Retro Games Limited. I've done like the mini Mega Drive and stuff like that. You know, it's just one handy little place where they're all compiled. I just figured it would be nice to keep all that together because I use them a lot for my videos on here, and you know, I just figured maybe you'd want to buy one if you don't have them. It's entirely up to you. I am not forcing any. I don't, you know, I'm not gaining anything from this, so I'm not forcing you to buy them. It's just that I thought it was like a handy little thing to have. A lot of videos do have that sort of stuff in the comments, and I've never really done that before, so I like to help out where I can. And I've had a lot of people say thank you because they didn't even know where the Spectrum was listed. I know it's listed in quite a few places now, but I've just done all mine on Amazon because it's easy, and everyone's got Amazon, haven't they? You know, so I just kind of figured that was the easy way to do it. Anyway, that's enough waffle. Take care. I will see you on the next video. Have a fantastic week, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye for now.